19-year-old Karen Ann Brown was thrown out of a roller coaster ride and fell to her death. Gloria Rojas is a Great Adventure right now with the story for us. Gloria?
This time, tragedy struck at Great Adventure. It happened at a ride that's been here for 9 years, a ride that rises 85 feet above the ground and covers 4 acres. 19-year-old Karen Brown of Chester, Pennsylvania, came to Great Adventure today with her boyfriend. Lightning Loops, a roller coaster type ride, was what they were on when the young woman fell and was killed.
Was that a 19-year-old young woman fell from a train on Lightning Loops ride, going either through the highest slope, after the loop, or before the loop. That's what we're trying to determine, is how it possibly happened, and that's being worked on by our people here, local officials, state, etc.
The rest of the park remained open. You can still hear the shouts of excitement, you can hear music, you can see the lights of the other rides moving. But the Lightning Loops area is cordoned off. It was shut down, except to investigators. Some park visitors say they chose Lightning Loops because of the danger. Others say perhaps the rider was at fault.
You know, I've ridden it like probably about 50 times in my life. I really feel it's the fault of the rider.
Just like most of the rides, it's the strap down thing that locks when it comes down. So it seems like there's no way it can come back up once it gets properly locked down. So you got to figure if she had fallen out, it must have not have been properly locked down. You know what I mean? And usually you kind of check it yourself because you're nervous on the ride to begin with, and then they come by usually and check it to make sure it's locked up.
3 years ago, Great Adventure's Haunted Castle was the scene of a tragic fire that killed 8 teenagers and led to civil and criminal court cases.
The company was acquitted of all charges, of manslaughter charges, and the 2 executives that were involved completed their, PTI program, community service program, and successfully, a year and a half ago. And that's, that part of the chapter's put behind us, but the 2 of the lawsuits are still pending.
Karen Brown was pronounced dead at Freehold Hospital this afternoon. Park officials say that perhaps tomorrow, in an update, they'll be able to provide more information on the cause of this accident.
People riding the Cyclone roller coaster here at Coney Island tonight. Well, some of them had heard about the accident at Great Adventure. It didn't seem to discourage them from riding this roller coaster. Hey, you hold on. You don't worry about falling out. No. Does it scare you to ride it?
No.
This roller coaster is inspected twice a year, once by the city buildings department, once by the engineers for the ride's insurance company. The ride did not open last spring because of insurance problems. When the operator's license from the city came up for renewal, the city demanded that the ride have $5 million worth of insurance. The operators couldn't get that much. Ultimately, the state lifted that requirement and the ride reopened last July. This ride is 60 years old. The operator says there hasn't been a fatality in the 12 years he has run it, nor before that he's aware of. He says most rides are safe if riders follow the rules, like not standing and keeping their hands in. This ride will not operate unless the safety bars are locked. Nevertheless, there are a few who don't trust it. What do your friends say when you wait it out?
They started calling me chicken and names and all that.
The adventure of roller coaster death.
The last time Richard DePrince saw his girlfriend alive, she was sitting right next to him on a loop-de-loop ride. He recalls how she was thrown screaming 75 feet to her death, and he blames the very system that was supposed to guarantee their safety and good times. Gloria Rojas reports.
Karen Brown died of massive skull fracture, said the medical examiner today, suffered when she fell from the ride. Karen's boyfriend, who had accompanied her, charged that Great Adventure's carelessness is what actually killed her.
We were getting seated. Our safety gear was down. You know what I mean by down? It was down on the back of the seat. But you had to lift it up yourself to put it back over top of you. I had the opportunity to lift it up and start pulling it down. And if Steve and Mary, they will say the same thing. As I was pulling it down, I looked over and saw Karen was having trouble with hers. She was leaning forward, trying to lift it up, and it took off. The ride took off. I guess the momentum, forced me to lock myself in. And Karen wasn't in. You go forward, it's about 10 feet, and it drops. Drastically drops. And at that point, Karen went out over the front of the car. I was screaming from the point you know, as the thing started moving, I shouldn't say moving. When I say moving, the thing just, it takes off, it just goes. And I was screaming for them to stop, but no one heard me.
Because of the death here at Great Adventure, the Ocean County Prosecutor's Office is involved in the investigation. A preliminary report says that other eyewitnesses verify that Karen was struggling to get back under the restraint, but because of the motion of the car, she could not. Investigators from New Jersey's Department of Labor examined the ride and tested it while moving. However, they didn't disclose their findings, but Great Adventure said their engineers completed their tests and everything checks out mechanically. They add that visual inspections are part of the safety routines.
They're trained to visually and physically detect a ride. They go through a training program, and they're paid to do that job.
A civil suit is expected in the death of Karen Brown, but the Ocean County prosecutor says that right now there's no indication of criminal negligence. However, adds a spokesman, the investigation continues and anything could develop. Gloria Rojas, News 4.
Took off before she had a chance to fasten her shoulder harness, but officials say no.
The harness had to be in place, but maybe she was not in proper position for the harness to be effective.
So she could have slid out sideways?
No, maybe she wasn't under the harness.
State inspectors are continuing their investigation, but they have no results yet. Park officials insist their tests show all equipment was working properly.